Right now, though, let me introduce my guest for you. Joining me, energy analyst Kwadwo Poku. He joins the conversation, and financial analyst Dr. Wisdom Dugbe. Good morning.
Good morning, Ben. How are you?
I am okay. I'm okay. I hope you are too.
I'm very well. I mean, it's a Tuesday morning, beginning of the week. What else can we hope for? We are live.
The week started yesterday. But anyway, I'll start with you, Kofi. What are your quick thoughts for us? I want us to cover a lot of ground today, so make them straight to the point, brief, a minute and a half.
Yeah, Ben, thank you so much for having me again. I was reading a news article on Manasseh's new book, and the revelation that the former finance minister and his company, Bank, they may have made a whopping $9 million in Ghana's domestic borrowing and also in Eurobonds. I think this is a revelation that should trouble all well-meaning Ghanaians, that when the nation was going through all of these economic challenges, the very same people that were in charge to pursue policies that will prevent such economic crisis, or at least manage the crisis better. These officials, not only were they not able to prevent this hardship on Ghanaians, but when everyone else was struggling, they were busy benefiting from the woes of the nation's excessive borrowing, as alleged. Is this not a classic case of create, loot, and share? Think about it for a second. How on God's green earth would we say that there is nothing wrong with these optics? If it is true, right, that a finance minister fails to properly manage the finances of the nation, then leads efforts to borrow and borrow. And each time he's making money for himself through his company every time he goes to borrow. You know, I worry about these things and the impact on our nation, Ben, seriously. And I hope that either Dr. Bawumia or President Mahama, whoever wins the elections, I hope that they would, at the very least, properly investigate the activities of these some of these government appointees, especially the finance minister, including the contracts that he signed in the last hours of his tenure.
And I know you're referring to that ambulance contract. It's also interesting on the other side because you would have heard, for example, long before the talk about the fact that, you know, Databank had been a transactional advisor in the past, but according to Manasseh, this was few and far between, once or twice, yet there seemed to have been a ramping up, especially after Ken Ofori-Atta, the former finance minister, became finance minister. And then there is his insurance company and everything in between. Your thoughts, Kwadwo Poku?
Well, I want to say good morning to our cherished viewers. I want to greet everybody that is watching us this morning. I want to take this opportunity to apologize to the good people of the Eastern region who were anticipating the bus of possibility to basically get to them today, tomorrow, and Thursday. As you all heard, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia have put on hold his campaign of the Eastern region to concentrate on the manifesto launch that's coming up on Sunday. It's not intentional to basically let people do all the arrangements and last minute cancel these talks, but it has become that he wants to pay more attention, dot the I's and cross the T's on the manifesto and familiarize himself with the many proposals that we are going to unveil on Sunday. And that's the reason why we have to put a campaign on hold. So I want to use this medium to apologize to the people, the constituencies, and the elders and the chiefs that's been affected. We will make it up to them when the campaign tour starts on the 20th.
Mm. I like how apologetic members on your side have become. In recent times, you've been pretty free with apologies, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
We have always been free for apologies, Ben. It's not in recent times.
Oh, really?
Every time that we need to apologize. Yes, I don't see where you are going with this.
Can you remind me of the last time anyone from the MPP apologized for anything before the finance minister? Can you remind me?
There is a need. When there is a need, look, I did not get into that thing with you and Dr. Dugbe because for me, it's just unnecessary rhetoric. I'm not a spokesperson for the finance minister, so he can answer for himself. But the most important thing is that we have been apologetic when there's the need to be apologetic. I don't see where in recent times comes in.
Okay. Well, good to hear. We will not be the judges of that. The good people of Ghana will decide on that. But let's get into the newspapers now. The Daily Graphic newspaper is where I'm going to start from. Mahama launches NDC Youth Manifesto, promises to create more jobs. Then there's also Kolebu secures 30 new dialysis machines. NLA loses 1 billion Ghana cedis to illegal lotto operations, devises plan to reverse the trend. We heard Samia Wuku touch on that in the news today. Stop threatening violence. Peace Council urges political parties. Then on the back page, Nocton MP presents $1.2 million worth of equipment to MEPA Health Center, and GNFS, that's the Ghana National Fire Service, saves 94 million Ghana cedis worth of property from fire ruins. I want to start from the back page. So the Member of Parliament for Nocton, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, has presented $1.2 million hospital equipment to the MEPE Hospital Health Center to cater for the over 20,000 population in the area. The health center was built by the City FM Foundation and the Chamber of Mines about 3 months ago to save lives after the Akosombo and Kpong dams spillages. Well, the presentation is in fulfillment of the MP's pledge to provide the necessary equipment to make the facility functional. With the support of SOS International in the US, the MP redeemed his promise with a presentation to mark his 44th birthday. The equipment included a number of dialysis machines, X-ray machines, adjustable beds, and stethoscopes. And the health center is expected to be upgraded to a full hospital in the coming months, while some of the equipment is to be sent to other health facilities to serve the people. Now, let's get into the fire service bit. The Ghana National Fire Service has saved over 94 million Ghana cedis worth of property from being ravaged by fire between January and July this year. They are made of residential buildings, industrial properties, and other public facilities. This highlights the Ghana National Fire Service's improved fire management strategies and the growing efficiency in preventing extensive damage, despite its numerous operational challenges. Now, the cost of damage also increased significantly from 120 million Ghana cedis last year to 89 million Ghana cedis this year, indicating a 26.5% reduction. So it was actually the cost of damage decreased as well, and that was the reduction there. Any quick reflections on these stories before I get to the others? I'll start with you, Kojo. Hello, Kojo Poku.
Well, thank you. I would also want to congratulate the fires. Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello? Okay. I want to basically congratulate the fire service for the good work that they are doing. As we all know, the fire service has seen a massive improvement in the current years with the institutions that has been put up across the country. Can you hear me, Ben?
I can hear you. It's a bit patchy, but I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, sorry. I don't know why my network is behaving this morning. But then I want to say that we have made a massive, the NPP government has made a massive improvement and investment in the fire service, building new training centers for the fire service. The other side that I want to touch on would be the Youth Manifesto that was presented by the Mr. Mahama. I've heard, I don't know how far it's true because I didn't listen, that he wants to give first year tuition free to universities. I don't know if you heard that.
Go ahead, make your point. I'll be getting into that story. Go ahead and make your point, Kojo.
No, I just want to confirm it before I make my point. So maybe you did. It's not really about go ahead and make your point. Just help me.
Whatever you have heard, go ahead and make your point on it.
Okay, all right. So basically for me, it's a bit strange that a young guy will meet a pretty girl and say that, look, let's get married. Only give you money for 1 year. You know, for me, it doesn't add up. What Ghanaians should know, which a lot of people should take advantage of. Not everybody should go to university. After secondary school, we should look at the options. Not everybody's academic. So I pray that people take advantage of the free TVET that we have and basically not fall for this issue of, oh, go to university and I'll give you first year education for free. Then after the 1 year, then what? We need to resolve the issues and make the senior high school better, reform the policies as we intend to take a bill to Parliament, and basically make sure that we strengthen the secondary education in the country. And that's the most important thing. And every Ghanaian knows that now the free technical education and the free senior high school is the best thing that happened to Ghana since the loaf of bread.
All right. I just have some interesting thoughts. Everybody should get senior high school education, but not everybody should get tertiary education, right? And if
I never said that.
Well, that's what you're suggesting. And
I'm not. I said that everybody.
Let me make my point. This is my show. Let me make my point. Don't come and run roughshod here. Let me make my point.
You made a statement to question what I said.
If you allow me to finish, you can make your point. That's the whole point. When you were making a point, I didn't interject. Now the point is this. I'm just saying, and if I am wrong, you can correct me. So it is good for everybody to have senior high school education, but tertiary education is not for anybody. Someone would also argue with you. I've spoken to senior educationists who say that, look, even our technical system, we ought to make it so basic right from the start so that it's not even senior high education that will make certain people go here or there. For some people, it is clear that even at the senior high level, they should have diverted into that. That's why I'm asking that question of you. And I'm also asking this question from the standpoint of, if someone has come and delivered free senior high school, and someone also comes and says, great job, free senior high school, but let's add up so that for first years, maybe we can incrementally ensure that education is free. Is it wrong?
Well, Ben, I don't know if you're part of the NDC Manifesto, but I've not heard incremental. All I heard was that first year senior high school.
Incremental is my word.
Free. I don't know why you're adding to their manifesto. They never said incremental. You are saying incremental. So I don't know if you're part of the manifesto.
I don't know whether the point is the struggle with the word incremental, which I have used, which is not in there. All I'm saying is...
Ben, let's not add to their manifesto. They said first year tertiary is free. All I'm saying is that let the Ghanaians be the judge. Let the pretty lady who the guy met and said that...
Kofi, hold for me. Let Kojo land.
Let's let the young girl who the guy met and said, let's get married, I'll give you chop money for only 1 year. Let the girl be the judge. Let Ghanaians be the judge what they want. But to your point, look, our senior and junior high school, JSS and senior high school, was that exactly what you said? Now, who caused them? Over the years of the NDC, PNDC era, they the ones who messed up our education. JSS was to be exactly what you talked of. When I was in secondary school, that they were to introduce senior high school, they were supposed to have a technical vocational part of the junior high school and senior high school. So when you're going into senior high school, you do not necessarily have to go to become academic. You can now branch off to the vocational from introducing all the knitting, the carpentry, and all those things at the JSS level. What did the PNDC and the NDC do? They messed it up. So don't come and blame anybody. It's their fault that we are in the mess that we are today. That is why everybody is now end up being academic. Not everybody in this country can be academic. That's the truth.
Okay, so it appears you agree with me, but you don't agree with me. And I struggle with your understanding of the word incremental I used. The simple meaning. Someone has done something. Someone is adding another layer. And I don't even know why this is a struggle, because as far back as Anda Nkrumah, there were policies in place at the University of Ghana where some people at the tertiary level were getting completely free education. Some of them were being sponsored to go to Germany and Russia. I have uncles who benefited from that. So sometimes when I deal with politicians, I struggle to understand where you come from sometimes. And this whole bit about it is only one side that has created the problem with our education. I don't think we have enough time to go into that. But Kofi, you wanted to respond quickly. Do that, and then we'll get into other stuff. Wisdom Dogwe, please go ahead.
Look, I was beaming with joy when I heard that the former president has promised that level 100 students will pay fees. They won't pay fees if he is re-elected. All of the campaign promises, right? This one hits differently for me. It resonates a lot with me because of my personal story. And Kojo, maybe this will help you to understand why this is very important. My dad was a soldier in the Ghana Armed Forces. When he retired, we didn't have much. Life was challenging. A lot of the times for us, things were hard. My mom had to step in selling slippers, clothing, and different things at the whole central market, to make ends meet for us to be able to attend school. It was very tough. And after my father, right, my parents sold everything that they had to get us through school. They could only do it through SHS. My brother, who was a student in Sweden, he had to work as a newspaper distributor. At the time, send us money so we can pay our school fees. We didn't even have electricity or tap water. And despite all of that, we worked hard. And when I got to Legon, I went with only my huge portmanteau with no idea where I would even spend that night, my first day at Legon. Not to talk about where I would sleep the whole semester.
Right.
School fees, right? School fees and money for handout, it was only going to take the grace of God. And indeed, then, it took the grace of God when one Dr. Amy Awuku, she knows herself, and her parents, total strangers, they were the ones who stepped in to help me at the initial stages at Legon. I could have easily dropped out from level 100 because there was no money. And so I can guarantee that this promise by the former president, if he follows through with it, it will be the reason why the daughter or the son of a struggling parent somewhere will have equal opportunity to education. And quickly, this question of where the money will come from to pay for,
I was just about to get to that. I mean, any such help, I have seen people come from school. In fact, there have been instances where some students were supposed to come from different parts of the country, came in. Once there's a delay in the window, imagine someone coming from up north to the University of Ghana. I get all of that. But that next bit you're about to tackle, how are we going to fund that? Tell me, what are your thoughts on that?
Look, Ben, most of our sources of revenue have been leveraged, right? But I can tell you that proper fiscal discipline, right, and a significant victory in the fight against corruption, this will stop the shrinkage to the government purse and provide some financial flexibility to pay for the free education.
Just a quick point. You realize that at the time, if the former president comes to power, none of that will be in place. This whole bit about, okay, so we're going to save money from the loopholes we'll plug from corruption and all of that. In the initial phase, in the initial stages, how will this be run? Or is it that maybe it may take a year of preparation before we get there? I mean, I know you may have better insight, but how is it going to happen? I'm just curious.
Look, my thought is this, right? Even today, even though we're going through the IMF program, we still have contracts that are being signed. I told you this the other time. People set up companies yesterday, today to get contracts. Millions of dollars of contract. If you cut those loopholes, Ben, I have no doubt we'll have the money to start this and we'll be able to have that incremental funding for this going forward.
Okay. All right, let's move into other stories very quickly. And then as for this discussion, now that manifestos are coming out, at least the Youth Manifesto on the side of the NDC, very soon the MPP as well, we'll be able to look at all of what they are proposing and surgically analyze what they are proffering. Mahama launches NDC Youth Manifesto promises to create more jobs. Former President Mahama has made a commitment to the youth that he will create abundant job opportunities that will meet their diverse needs and aspirations. Launching the 2024 Youth Manifesto of the National Democratic Congress in Accra yesterday, Mr. Mahama declared, quote, "We will create the jobs that young people have been waiting for, and when the jobs are created, no one will be left behind." He hopes to capitalize on the votes of the youth to return to the presidency, and he said with a focus on inclusivity and equal access, the next NDC government would address the pressing concerns of unemployment, underemployment, and skills mismatch that had for long plagued the youth of the country. Let me get to some other points he makes. He said the coding initiative was captured in the NDC's 2020 manifesto. So he talks about leveraging digital tools for positive change. And he says the coding initiative captured in the NDC's 2020 manifesto document, and that any replication of such anywhere must have been copied from the party. That is one. And of course, you know where that is headed, because the sitting vice president has also spoken about enabling the youth in that regard. For me, I don't think it should really be a contest. Whoever wins, if they actualize this, it is the youth who will benefit. But then he also says, and if you want to know who has plagiarized whom, Go to the NDC 2020 Manifesto and look at page 88, and you see the Million Coders program there, Mr. Mahama said. Finally, and there's a lot more, but I don't have the time to get into that. Former President John Dramani Mahama made a commitment to the youth that he will create abundant job opportunities that will cater for their diverse needs and aspirations. That's the first one. Let me then go to page 11. So the Ministry of Health has procured 30 additional dialysis machines for the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. The new machines, which have their own consumables that can last for a year, will be deployed to the new Urology and Nephrology Center of Excellence at the hospital and installed for use before the end of the year. The head of the Public Relations Office of the hospital, Mustafa Salifu, who disclosed this in an interview with the Daily Graphic yesterday, said the machines were purchased through the initiatives of the Minister of Health, Dr. Bernard Okoboy. They are meant to improve the hospital's service delivery and cost efficiency, as well as prevent future shortages. I cannot express how happy I am about this news, because I may not be suffering from any issues related to that, but when you have seen people and what they go through, and people traveling long distances to come to Accra, only to meet instances where, you know, it takes about 4 hours for one person for your blood to be purified, and you can't even get the service. It is heart-wrenching, heartbreaking. So this is wonderful news, no matter how small, but we can still do better. I'll end on page 13 and get your reactions, gentlemen. Stop threatening violence, Peace Council urges political parties. Now, the National Peace Council is closely monitoring the political discourse ahead of the December 7 polls and will not hesitate to call out political parties and politicians who cross the red line by threatening violence, the National Chairman of the Council, Reverend Dr. Ernest Edu Jemfi, has said. He said, though it was normal practice for political actors to be optimistic about winning elections, it was unacceptable for them to resort to threats of violence to achieve electoral results. And I'll quote him here as I end. There is nothing wrong when politicians make statements that they are optimistic of winning an election, because no one goes to an election and hopes to lose. If they make such comments, that is okay, as long as they do not cross the red line by threatening to use the police, the military, or other means of violence. And I know we all know on the back of what some of these reactions are coming. God save Ghana. Your thoughts? I'll start with you, Kofi.
And I'll start by saying that congratulations. I'll get back to the story that you read on Samuel Okuja to Blackwell. Ghana respects him. We have great respect for him. We thank him for his service to the nation and how he's getting this hospital equipment to save the people of Northtown. I think that's great. That shows a sign of leadership. And it's a different kind of leadership from leaders who try to buy state properties at paltry prices. Now, look, there's a reason why Ghana is known across the sub-region, in fact, across the world, to be a peaceful nation. We haven't come this far because of politicians. We came this far to be known as a peaceful nation because of our tolerance and patriotism and peaceful coexistence. So yes, I will implore people to remain vigilant, against any politician who seeks to incite them to act violently in these elections. Violence is not the answer. It's never been the answer. It's okay for us to have different political convictions and still remain neighborly. Kojo and I, we have different political convictions, and I'm sure we're going to be good friends, So we need to continue to educate ourselves and not depend only on politicians as the source of our information. I think this will help us a lot, right? It will help the folks make informed decisions on how to vote on the issues that matter to them the most and how to hold politicians accountable for their actions. And I also call on the youth, right, to continue developing, critical thinking skills to evaluate the messages and the rhetoric that they hear from our politicians and their surrogates. Let's learn to put this through the litmus test. You need to question that and analyze their statements. That is the way you can keep up, right? As far as your emotions are concerned, keep your emotion in check and also not act violently. So when Brian A. Champion says NPP will win the elections because they have malams, they have imams, pastors, traditional juju people, whatever he was talking about, I expect the voters to take it as comedy, because these spiritualists don't help you win elections. It is your record that the voters will vote on. We can argue about different
But he did make mention of records. He says check the records of the MPP in terms of elections and all of that. So at least he mentioned records in there.
But he based his argument mainly on having malams, pastors, you know, juju people, or traditional, whatever he's talking about. That's not how you win elections.
Don't they malams and pastors vote?
Kojo, let him land. Let him land, please.
Look, all I would say is this. Let's be very wary of these politicians who use divisive language to promote hatred. Okay. And those who advocate violence as a means to achieve their goals.
All right.
Trust me, if they have anything good to offer, they will not put their hopes in malams or other spiritualists. They will not incite us to violence.
All right. Are you done?
Yes.
All right. Kojo?
Well, me and my brother don't have different conviction in politics. We just sit in two different countries and look at things differently. That's all. We have the same convictions, but we sit in two different countries. I sit in Ghana, you sit in the US. We look at things differently. Look, let me say this. Jobs. The MPP manifesto, the Dr. Bawumia manifesto is basically called jobs and businesses. The focus of the manifesto is to promote jobs and businesses. Now, the most key thing in our manifesto is the how. Every point we've put in there, we basically look into how. We interrogate the how. That's the most important thing. So when we say we'll create jobs, and when the manifesto comes out, you guys will see how the manifesto is being laid out. It's to basically point out whatever initiatives we have and how that initiative create jobs. So everybody reading the manifesto can correlate the initiative directly to the jobs that it creates. Now, when His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the former president, said that somebody is copying his initiative, nobody is copying his initiative. Look, as I have always said, he doesn't understand that space. He promised coders. Now, coding is different from creating digital jobs, which the vice president talks about. If you listen to the vice president's speech, he goes on to say that you can sit in Ghana, you can sit in Wale Wale, you can sit in Obuasi and work in Canada, America, and the US. Why does he say that? When he says that he's going to create digital jobs, today, I met a lady and I asked her what she does. She said, oh, she's a virtual administrator. My secretary has two jobs. She works for me and works online for an international company. And she does all their secretarial work for them online. So today, there are a lot of our youth who work online. There's the digital space. So what the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, talks about is that he's going to train 1 million Ghanaians for the fourth industrial revolution, which is the digital age, where you don't have to be physically present in a country to work for a company in that country. That is what he's talking about. Let me land, please. Let me land.
You have to land quickly. I intentionally gave you time. Land quickly on that point.
I haven't finished my time you gave me. Let me finish. You can ask your question.
I'm not giving you any time. Your time is up, and I'm actually letting you go ahead.
But so you only giving me 45 seconds.
I didn't say anything about 45 seconds, oh. Land and let's move on.
Hold on. This discrimination won't work because you gave him about 2 minutes to talk. So let me finish my point. Okay, so let me continue. Now, the issue of coding is not the same. So nobody is copying anybody. Anybody who understands IT knows what coding is. Coding is not the same as digital jobs. So by finishing, and you can ask the question you want to ask. The most important thing today is to basically look forward to the future and train the kids for the future, not to be looking at jobs, which is the backward-looking jobs that he's proposing to train coding. These days, who code anymore? I am done.
Do I have 15 seconds to
Kofi, hold for me. You see, sometimes, that's why I keep saying that you are an energy analyst, the other person is a financial analyst. The statement you just made, nowadays, who codes? I dare you, Kojo. Go out there and learn more. That's all I'm going to say to you. But you make the point about the former president's theory being very different from this one. I suppose what he's pointing to is the fact that you would create 1 million jobs as far as coders are concerned. You would train 1 million people in coding. Is that on page 88 of their Youth Manifesto in 2020?
I don't know. I don't read the NDC Manifesto.
Hold for me. Don't interject. Is that what the current vice president is also saying? I don't know this bit. Like I said, whichever way it goes. But don't try to denigrate coding saying nowadays who does. If you are not informed on that, please. I think
let's not
stay
go on
away
that
from
point. I
those
just made a
comments.
comment. Let's not go on that point anymore. Let's talk on the thing that I mentioned.
Well, you opened your mouth and
there
said
are
that.
two different.
I
Let's
didn't
not
force
go
you
on
to
that
say
point.
that.
Okay, I take that statement back. A lot of people code these days. Let's not go back on that. That Kojupoku said these days who code anymore. Let's not go on that. The most important thing is that there are two different jobs that's being created. People working online is different from coding, and everybody knows that.
Kofi,
and Ben,
if you have a quick...
go and also check my IT background. Go and ask Commander Griffith, who was the chairman of the Y2K in Ghana back in 2000. He will tell you it was Kojupoku. So don't go there with my IT background, please.
Kojo, with your IT background, if you just said, I don't mean to denigrate you, but what you just said,
it back. What you just said,
vis-a-vis your IT background, I mean, you are just making matters worse for yourself.
Let's not flop that statement, Ben.
Kofi,
let's not flop that statement.
Kofi, quick thoughts. I see you have a rebuttal. Quick thoughts,
just 15 seconds, and I'm glad, Kojo, you took it back.
Else.
One of the things I was going to say pretty quickly is today, right, in today's job market, I have hired people. I have been in the market hiring people even up until last month.
Right.
The point I want to make here is this. Coding is a requirement even today, not just at the analyst level, but also at the exec level. You want to be able to hire somebody who comes in, who knows how to code and able to train people. So you cannot discount that. So I'm glad you took that back. Now, the other thing I want to mention quickly.
It has to be quick, Kofi. Quick point. We have to get into other stories.
Very quickly. The point I want to make here is this. You have all of these things that you talked about, Kojo, but our youth are still at home. A lot of them are still at home. In Ghana today, you need to know somebody very influential to get a well-paying job. That's what we need to change.
It's not true. It's not true. It's not true.
Kofi, finish your point.
The difference between me and you is that I employ a lot of people. In Ghana, I employ a lot of people. You don't need to know people to get employed.
Will you allow me to regulate this conversation?
But he makes a statement that is wrong. Let's correct it. You don't need to know people influential to get a job in Ghana. It's not true.
Kofi, go ahead with your point.
I know a lot of people, young graduates, that completed school and they were not able to find jobs. My own sister, she stayed in Ghana for a long time. Eventually, I had to take her out. You know, so I know what I'm talking to you about. There are no jobs for the youth, especially those that don't have influential people, people in power.
Thank you, Kofi. So I've just been given some further insight as well as far as the funding of the level 100s at the university level or the tertiary level is concerned. There have been interactions and there has been talk about part of the funding being from the GET Fund. Of course, we know about the capping of the GET Fund and what that creates. Some estimates have been given in terms of the cost of admissions per student, and indeed the estimates to enroll using the last academic year's statistics. Kofi Asare of EduWatch actually waded into that, and he made mention of the fact that less than 4% of the uncapped GET Fund would suffice to take care of this. So I guess that also answers that bit about funding, which I raised and you, Kofi, you had raised.
I'm glad to hear that.
Right.
I'm glad to hear that. This is very feasible.
Well, it looks like this platform is becoming an NDC mouthpiece where you guys are just basically part of the NDC Manifesto, giving answers to questions NDC themselves cannot even answer. I'm surprised. Ben is now becoming the one who comes in. You are becoming. Look, if this thing is becoming an NDC thing, let's know so we can all respond accordingly. Because I think we are analyzing the
Kofi, relax. Kofi, relax. Let him land.
Ben asked the question, then now we have the answer for the NDC. They themselves don't know how to fund this thing when they came out of it. Now all of a sudden, Ben have an answer for them. Interested.
Are you done?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay, so next time, since it is such a platform, next time possibly you shouldn't even join this conversation. That is one. Two, if you have any sense of bias, which you haven't mentioned in the past, and I have you on these discussions, the mere fact that we have you on this discussion should tell you something. And if you feel that you don't want to have these conversations with us, you can make it clear so that next time we don't bring you on. Now, the third point.
No, it's not that.
Hold for me. Let me make my point. Don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt me.
Let me also make my point.
Don't interrupt me. The last point. I merely made mention of the fact that I had been given further information. In fact, it is someone from our production team who alerted me to the fact that these conversations had been had. And I was merely pointing for the sake of education, both for Kofi Dogbe and for all those watching us, that this is the instance and this is what you want to say. So next time, let me make it clear.
No,
if you
Ben,
feel,
let me also make it clear.
No, you will not come on this show and try to denigrate. I will let you talk when I want you to talk. I will let you talk when it is time for you to talk. You will not come on this platform, on my show, on this news review, and throw yourself about. And what you've just said,
it's a news
I
review,
take exception to that.
It's supposed to be a news review.
I take exception to that. And if you ever do it again, that will be the end of any discussions with you. Note that.
It's a news review. Please, let me also make my point. It's a news review, not an NDC mouthpiece. And as you clearly said, it's a news review. You went on to bring up this point of, how are they going to fund it? Then all of a sudden, we now have an answer to how it's going to be funded. It's a news review. How are we now making it an NDC mouthpiece? Well, that's the point I'm making. As a news review, we are reviewing the newspaper.
So what
you have done.
So I cannot get information on the back of a question that I want all of us to answer.
Information on basically something that you bring up and you answer.
It is interesting because there have been similar instances where there have been things on your side, and I've come through with information on it. But I guess you wouldn't remember that, would you?
No, I don't remember that.
I am not surprised. You wouldn't remember it. But take what I have said seriously. You ever come on my show, do that again, Kojo Poku. It will not be pleasant. Don't do that again. That's a warning.
Well, if you repeat
now,
it,
the Ghanaian Times newspaper, maybe you can go on other platforms and disrespect some hosts not here. You don't do that. You are my friend, and outside of here, we are bosom friends.
You. And you and I know I have not disrespected you. I just pointed something out.
The Ghanaian Times newspaper.
You can voice it out.
Commits to anti-corruption issues. Coalition demands from political parties. Roads Minister orders KMA to stop construction of buildings in waterways in Kumasi. Ni Odai Into family appeals to Lands Commission for fairness in land demarcation exercise. And at NDC's Youth Manifesto launch, we'll create the jobs for you, Mahama, assures the youth. On the back page, Mepe Health Center gets $18.7 million Ghana cedis equipment. Of course, they are using the dollar equivalent. And GHS, 7 others signed MOU to promote healthy life interventions nationwide. Well, let's look at the story on corruption. I really want us to quickly get into that story. So, as political parties finalize their 2024 election manifestos, the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition has challenged them to ensure their promises to combat corruption are clearly reflected in these policy documents. The coalition has consequently proposed a number of anti-graft issues they expect the political parties to show commitment to in their manifestos before they launch them in the coming days. We've already seen some of those launches. Now, the proposals include an amendment of the Political Parties Act, formulation of a law to regulate campaign financing, passage of the Code of Public Officers Bill, and expansion of the legal definition of corruption. It's a long story, but I suggest that everyone go and read that story on page 11 of the Ghanaian Times newspaper because it has a lot in there in respect of curbing corruption and the ways we can actually do that. The Economy Times, utility tariffs, fuel prices, and exchange rate threaten inflation outlook. And the continuous upward adjustment in utility tariffs, increases in ex-pump fuel prices, and the recent exchange rate pressure are likely to pose a major risk to inflation outlook for 2024. According to the central bank, these developments have resulted in a slightly elevated inflation profile for the year. There's also that story, Ghana ranks favorably on corruption. That's according to an RMB, Rand Merchant Bank report. The final paper I'll do so we can go. The Daily Guide, Baumia's digitalization agenda game changer, ex-Canadian minister. I'll empower the youth. That's according to former President Mahama. And the caption there, Mahama's free level 100 policy stokes fire. And NPP will win 2024 elections. That's according to NAPO. Kofi, I'll start with you for your quick thoughts. Then I'll take Kojo's quick thoughts. And we shall wrap the conversation.
Ben, I would like to know more about this RMB post, right? The one that you just talked about, that Ghana ranked highly on corruption. I don't, in my whole lifetime, I've never remembered any time where corruption is as high as it is in Ghana today. Things are very difficult. opportunities are only available to people in power, people that know people in power and all of that stuff. I think the corruption index should be higher than what you just said. So I'll take my time to read that to learn more. But I want to touch briefly on the youth, the town hall that we're talking about. Ben, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead. Just be brief. Be very brief. I can hear you, Kofi.
Okay. Now, I heard about the Youth Manifesto launch, right? Just like we're talking about. I think the former president assured the youth that his 24-hour economy policy and his plan to invest in key areas of the economy, these are policies that will create jobs for the people, and provide avenues for, entrepreneurship and innovation. And I believe that this is all that the youth in the country are asking for.
Right.
Equal opportunity to find a job or to pursue their ambitions in business. Unfortunately, in today's Ghana, our nation today, like I said, you need to know somebody. And if you don't know somebody, you are languishing and you have no opportunity. So I think that this manifesto is something that will inspire the youth a lot.
All right. Thank you very much for those final thoughts. Kojo, your final thoughts as well, and we wrap.
Well, the most of the coalition on corruption have presented their presentation to the MPP manifesto. We've taken a lot of them into consideration, and when it's launched on Sunday, a lot of you would applaud the Dr. Bawumia manifesto for proposing a lot to do with check on corruption. Like I said, we've taken that part very, very serious in that manifesto. Again, let me go back onto the point I made earlier, which is the issue of the job employment for the massive youth that Mr. John Dramani Mahama is proposing. The how is not there. Like I said, when you now tell somebody that, look, I'm going to marry you and give you only chop money for 1 year, what happens to the rest of the years that you are married to that person? I think that Ghana, we should look at education differently, academic and technical. Vocational jobs are very key. That is free now. So the free TVET is very important for the youth of today. So for us, look, it's much ado about nothing. When our manifesto comes out next week, Sunday, everybody will be able to look at it. It's like a box of chocolate. You dip your hand in there and there's something in there for everybody.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining the conversation. Kojo Poku is an energy analyst. Dr. Wisdom Dogbe is a financial analyst. We wish you the best of the day. Well, right before we get into sports, this segment is always brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. And they are offering you, if you're a man, prostate screening for free. If you're a woman, fertility screening for free. All you have to do, reach out to them at any of their branches, starting with here in Accra, at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Kronoma here behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Anaji State, Tema Committee 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Esiama Nzema. If you'd like to call them, which I proffer that you do, these are the numbers you can reach them on. 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Sports is up next. You want to stay for that.